Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining. We will get started in 3 minutes. So you got time to do what you got to do. We will get started in 3 minutes. Thank you for joining. It's finally at the point in Minnesota where it's warm enough that yard work now is got to be added to the list of to-dos. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's almost May. It's crazy.
Same in Northwest Arkansas.
Yeah, right? You're like, oh my gosh,
I feel like I have
another
some
thing.
snobby LA comment I can make right now.
I love snobby LA comments. My sister lived in LA for 18 years. I love it. Uh, it's I do love the landscaping in LA. There was some beautiful flowers and hedges I always admired. Like I wish they would grow here in Minnesota.
I just want palm trees.
So pretty, right? Like this.
I don't know if it's more enjoyable to experience the weather or like to talk about the weather, you know. They both have like such high levels of gratification, you know. So
I know it's what did somebody in LA said once to me that the traffic is the sun tax. I
I
was
mean,
like, oh yes, that's your tax. So, it can't be entirely. You get the traffic, but you do have the sun.
yes. But I see in being in Arkansas yesterday, noticing that that's becoming a bit of an issue there as well. The
Ooh,
traffic.
traffic.
This is what I'm being told as well, especially because like all the expansion right now. I mean, Lane could drone on this, I'm sure, for a while.
Yeah. Well, it's just we've grown so much so quickly and like the infrastructure is not in place. And so
hmm
it causes a lot of congestion.
I can see that. Totally. Welcome, everyone. We will get started here in about a minute.
Pull up the
Yeah,
Q&A here on the sides just so I can see what's going on.
got it.
And I mean, I always like to open the floor always to questions, like
A
Yeah.
hundred
anything
percent.
specific. I mean, it's not a crazy long deck. It's 11 slides total, but with ads, it could really, there's so many questions to ask. So
So many details. Totally. Excellent. Well, I think we got everybody. Oh, we're still a few more coming in here. Welcome, everyone. Come on in. You're just in time. All right. Happy Thursday, everyone. I am Tiffany Service Gustafson, a digital strategist with BWG Connect, and we are a network and knowledge sharing group. We stay on top of the latest trends, challenges, whatever is shaping the digital landscape. We want to know and talk about it. We will do hundreds of these webinars this year with the increase in demand to better understand the digital space. And we'll also do at least 100 in-person small format dinners. So if you happen to live in a tier one city in the US, feel free to check out our website bwgconnect.com, and you can register there. We'd love to have you. These dinners are typically 15 to 20 people around a table having a certain discussion around a digital topic, and we always have a fantastic time. We spend the majority of our time talking to brands. That's how we stay on top of the latest trends, and I'd love to have a conversation with you. So feel free to drop me a line at Tiffany, Tiffany at bwgconnect.com, and we can get some time on the calendar. It's from these conversations we generate the topic ideas we know people want to learn about, and it's also where we gain our resident experts, SellCord, who's with us today. Anybody that we ask to teach the collective community has come highly recommended for multiple brands within the network. So if you're ever in need of any recommendations within the digital space, please don't hesitate to reach out. We have a short list of the best, and we would love to provide that information to you. A few housekeeping items before we get started. Let's get everybody rolled in, which is great. We want this to be educational, conversational. So drop those questions and comments into the chat here. Let's see if it's open. Yes. And the Q&A. So if you want to be anonymous, you can in the Q&A, or you can put your questions, comments into the chat. You can always email me as well, Tiffany@bwgconnect.com, and we'll be sure to get to those questions and comments as we roll along with the content. We did start here about 5 minutes after the hour, so rest assured we're going to wrap up before the end of the hour to give you time to wherever you need to go next. So with that, let's roll and start to talk about how to maximize Walmart Connect spend to drive organic growth. The team at SellCord are awesome friends of the network. I will get over to you. I'll start with David and then Lane. Give introductions on yourself would be oh so lovely, and then we'll jump right in. Thank you all for joining.
Wait, Tiffany, thank you so much for that intro. Yeah, so I'm David. I'm one of the co-founders of SellCord. We are a Walmart exclusive agency, purely growing and understanding the Walmart.com marketplace, helping suppliers and sellers alike really grow their business on Walmart.com. And today, we'll be covering this specifically how to perform better when it comes to Walmart Connect, especially in today's age where, every cent, it's important that it goes a long way. We'll be covering those topics today.
Excellent.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Tiffany, for that introduction. David and I are excited to be here today. My name's Lane Caruth. I lead our enterprise division here at SellCord. I am based in Northwest Arkansas, where Walmart's corporate office is, and really excited just to dive right in.
Awesome. Questions, comments, put into the chat and the Q&A as we roll around here and get to all the goodies of Walmart. I mean, I worked with Walmart for almost 10 years selling home decor items. And I was saying earlier that 15 different platforms at least we were selling on, depending on the items. Walmart always was like one of our most profitable, if not most profitable, sales vertical. When you dissected it of the operating costs, the margin, that was what they required to sell on site. We always looked at like, wow, this is very favorable for us. We have some extra money to play with when it comes to, our margin growth. But now what? What do we do with this? We want to do advertising, but we don't know how and what makes sense and what are the tools that are available for us. So very excited to have this topic and be able to talk about it. And I had a lot of questions back then. I still have a lot of questions now. I'm sure you all do as well. So definitely keep them coming as we move along.
Perfect. I do notice that it says my name is Lane, but I am not another.
But you are David. Yes.
That is me. That would be me. Okay, amazing. Yeah, so let's jump in over here. I know that a couple of subjects Tiffany touched on, being more profitable and Walmart being a more profitable channel. We'll touch on why is that the case? Why do we see brands, that have that similar experience and how to achieve that better? So let's just jump right in. We're gonna just speak a little bit about what SellCord does. Again, I mentioned briefly, we are a Walmart exclusive agency, purely focusing on Walmart.com. With both 1P and 3P accounts, even especially, that combined effort of how to leverage both 1P and 3P together. This is something that, a lot of brands struggle with. Even with ads, one of the things that, we see people face is that your attribution does not really reflect across. Walmart treats a 1P account, which is a supplier, a 3P account as a seller, as two different accounts. So even if you are selling the same brand and it's really you on both ends, you can't see, that cross reflection. So you really have to look at the bigger picture at total sales and things like that. Just different strategies when it comes to media. We have built in-house software, which we'll be showing a couple of screenshots from, just for some Walmart exclusive data, like SOV and keyword rank, managing, tens of millions in Walmart ads. We have teams worldwide, including Arkansas, where Lane is currently residing, LA, which is the home base, and we have a team in China as well. These are a couple of the brands that we currently manage right now. I think we put this together maybe even a year ago, so it's definitely expanded a bit since, but these are just like some of the bigger names that you might be familiar with. All right, let's jump into a little bit of the basics. I want to just keep a little bit of time just for the basics for those who want to understand that, but primarily we'll be discussing some higher level strategies. Even though I did write on the next slide about a simple launch, it's really every part of the stage of ads can be done with always more intention, make sure that, you have the right goals in mind. So let's jump into the campaign types over here just to kick things off. We have here 4 different campaign types that are available for on-site advertising. We start first with sponsored product. This is your classic, what you're typically used to. If you see here on the left menu, on the left image over here, you see the second line, which has all those products over there, each showing sponsored right there at the top above the price. That's standard sponsored product. You search for a keyword, water bottle or flask, and you're going to see those on every single page. There are about 10 placements per page. Walmart's actually been messing with it a little bit recently, changing some things around, but that's what exists today. In order to get your product to display within a sponsored product, there you could run either an auto campaign or a manual campaign. The key difference is auto campaigns, there's no keyword targeting. You just purely put in your items and then you say, hey, you know, Walmart, run with it. You set a bid on an item level. On the manual side, it's you set in specific keywords that you're targeting. So let's say on the right here, we'd go after the keywords water bottle or flask or whatever specifically you're going to be going after, and that's would be the manual campaign. So it's a little bit more of a precise approach. We then have sponsored brand, which is listed below that. There you can see those four. You'll see that TAL logo over there on the left, and then those four water bottles on the right. The sponsored brand, one of its benefits is that always shows top of search. This is not a real screenshot on the right. There's just a compilation of the different ad positionings, but this is always on the top of the page. Especially, this is great if you're on mobile. It really just dominates everything. You don't get to see any other listings before that. So it's obviously a little bit more of a premium placement. It's more expensive. The base bids do start higher, but it's a great way if you want to just quickly take over a category and really be winning, the most impressions. Next to that, we have sponsored video, which is another great placement. This is not the top of search. It actually appears on the third line. You'll get a line of sponsored products, a line of organic products, then you'll see your sponsored video. But what the video does have that benefits, far outweighs, pretty much everything else here is that you're giving someone a video to watch. It's not just a simple still image. You're really able to capture an audience much broader, more quickly. There is a limitation of 1 to 2 products, and there's only 1 per page. So you really stick out from the other competition. Lastly, we have display ads, which is a little bit of a more upper funnel strategy. And that's what you see on the top there, that Brita ad. You'll see more of a shop now. It'll take you to a specific link. It's a very different model. It's run through a different page within the Walmart Connect platform. It requires a lot higher budgets and things around that, but it is definitely a full approach if you take all these stages together. There is also off-site advertising, which you can run display to Walmart. Separate conversation. We get into that. These are all the on-site campaigns. So even within this, we then have platform and placements and match types. What do these things mean? Well, we have to just understand what exists on Walmart, what type of customers exist. So let's say platform, for example, you have customer shopping on mobile, you have customer shopping on desktop, you even have customer shopping on the Walmart app. So within that, you have the ability to have what's called a bid multiplier. If you notice that your items serve better on the mobile app, you can increase your bid over there. We'll discuss that a little bit more when it comes to strategy, but just understand that concept as well as placements. On the right side here, we see that there's for the sponsored product, you have this is what's called search in grid. When you search for a product, for a keyword, it will show you a grid of products, right? You see like your outline of all your products over there. It's your 50 products, but you have other placements. If you click into an item, you'll see below the buy box. You'll see if you scroll down, there'll be carousels. There's all sorts of these different placements that exist for advertising. And then match types, what this is about is for anytime there's keyword targeting, which exists on sponsored product, brand, and video, you have the ability for different types of keyword match types. You either have, I only want to go after specifically exact, that's called, which is water bottle. You have phrase, which is as long as water bottle exists within the long tail keyword. And then there's broad, which is if you say water bottle, they'll also assume similar products to water bottle, such as a flask, things like that. They'll be able to quickly try to change out that keyword for similar keywords. So it's kind of like the auto campaign on the manual side is using a broad match type. Okay, that's a little bit about the basics. Again, I don't want to dwell too long on here because a lot of people might already have these concepts, but if you do have any questions, you can definitely shoot. I want to dive a little bit more into the actual strategy. Now,
I have a quick question about the basics. Can any brand, no matter the size, how long they've been on Walmart, have access to these campaign types?
So as long as you can brand register on Walmart, you get access to sponsored brand video and display. Any seller should have access to sponsored product. For brand video and display, you will need to be brand registered. Now, there are workarounds if you are an authorized seller of a brand. There are ways to get your brand still registered as an authorized seller and to be able to actually sell or run ads under those. It's a little bit more of a tedious process, but working together with Walmart, you are able to achieve that. So that's a great point. You should be the brand owner and you need to be brand registered. And again, this leads back to that initial point about the 1P and 3P dynamic, right? Let's say you're a brand, you have 1P and 3P, you want to run a sponsored brand in both of them, but now you got a brand register in both. How does that work? There are just some of these complexities that Walmart's trying to overcome, and these are just some common, minor issues that brands do deal with, and they just kind of, they might get stuck and just throw their hands in the air and call it a day. So, we have the experience on how to work through that, working together with Walmart when there are issues, just to get you to the right spot. That's a great point, though. Yeah. Also, I'm monitoring over here Q&A. If anyone has any questions at any point, please do drop them in, and I'll nab the cues. Alrighty. So I mentioned here basic strategy, but everything here can be more or less advanced as you go. So let's just start simply with, where do you begin? There's always this duality of how you like to approach things. Some people like to be very strategic, like the surgery. Want to make sure that everything is all prepped, get all your ducks in a row, and then go for a plan. Or you could just, test things out, just dive right in and really get your feet wet, right? So there's different approaches to how you want to go about advertising, and that's really what the idea of a launch plan is. You can go more strategic, but what typically happens is you don't know all the factors. And at the end of the day, it's very hard to quantify every single factor that's going to determine how your ads are going to succeed. So you could do all this planning, but by the time you jump in, you might not see the same results that you were anticipating. So I think you have to consider a bit of of some sort of hybrid approach. You could just go if you have deep pockets and you're just trying to quickly expand on the marketplace, you could definitely dive right in and just set up a bunch of campaigns and really go very aggressively. But I believe it's worthwhile to still have some understanding. So here are some ideas of how I like to approach a launch plan. 80-20 rule is applicable everywhere. It's just the way of things. So when we consider where do we want to go aggressively, you want to consider, where do the most of my sales come from right now? If you're a new brand, understanding from yourself, what do you anticipate being your best seller? No matter what, you could have 5 beautiful products. That 1 to 2 of them are going to do better than others, just from your own assumption, whether it's retails or it's a nicer product, whatever the specifics are. So make sure that you have your priority products. From there, it's very key to understanding what are your top keywords. This is a very, very important step. You need to get your keywords. You could just dive right in and throw on just auto campaigns and hope for the best. And you could even come up with keywords that you think of in a manual campaign. Walmart will even give you some ideas for keywords, but it's not ideal. You want to make sure that you're doing your own research for keywords. How do you do Walmart keyword research? You could use, tools similar to those that exist on Amazon. I like to say a customer is a customer, a shopper is a shopper, so keywords should be similar. There are reasons why that might not be perfect because of, let's say, autofill on Walmart, regardless of that, it's a separate topic. But a shopper is a shopper, and if a keyword is popular on Amazon or on Google, it should also be popular on Walmart. And it'll give you a true gauge of how things are. So if you have already a thriving Amazon business, you're looking to bring it to Walmart, you should know your top sellers, you should know your top keywords. But by the way, a lot of people don't know this, but Walmart gives you a lot of great information on your products. Once you have your products listed in Walmart on specifically the 3P side, they will actually show you keywords that perform well for you or how your products are performing. You could also, we have some information that we get ourselves. This is, I want to give information out, but we have different strategies that we've built internally for keyword research. Utilizing data that we get directly from Walmart, but there's a lot of great information that does exist within the Walmart 3P space using their analytics section. They have different ways to do keyword research where you could just search a keyword. It will give you similar keywords and give you a query score, which basically means how strong is this keyword. The lower the number, the better. So this exists in every Walmart 3P account. If you don't have access to it for some reason, you can always open up a ticket and you should be able to get access to that. It's been readily available for maybe even a year now. So once you have your keywords, you want to go ahead and say okay, auto campaign is always a great idea, because what does auto campaign do for you? It gives you opportunities for more ideas. You always, if I look at any account that exists, you'll see that sales come not from 5 keywords. Sales are coming from hundreds or even thousands of keywords across my catalog. So to just discount all that and be like, hey, I'm not going after this random keyword because it's a long tail keyword in Spanish. That's maybe don't put in a manual campaign, but have the auto campaign always running. You don't have to keep your bid super high. Put it at a bid, that works for you. Adjust, play around with it, but you need to have it. Auto campaigns need to exist. you're never going to phase out auto campaigns. Yes, Matt, if you had, negative targeting, that would be nice. It doesn't exist. That's fine. We're focusing purely on the regular auto campaigns that exist today. Use manual as the surgery. Use manual as the precision. Okay, these are the main keywords that I'm really trying to drive traffic towards. And that's, exact match is going to be the most precise. And you want to make sure that every main keyword that you're going after has an exact match with a high bid. Because that's where you're going to be doing your true, and we're going to speak about this a little bit today, your true incrementality. If you're able to identify, this is my main keyword, and you're able to drive organic rank and organic sales on your top keywords, you will have that long-term sustainability on the platform. That's what you're going to go after. You could make sales today, but you want to make sure that there is a long-term impact, because ads, again, we're discussing every penny needs to go as far as it can. That's going to come from identifying the right keywords and targeting, the right areas. Okay, let's talk a little bit about campaign setup. Just some things to understand. Avoid competing campaigns. These things are going to go a little bit of hand in hand. Walmart will compete with each other in your own account. People think, if I put in a keyword into campaign A and the same keyword into campaign B, Walmart will treat them the same. Walmart will treat that as if you have two different advertisers, as if it's campaign A is advertiser 1 and campaign B is the second advertiser. It could be your competitor. Why is that the case? It's just, there's complexities on Walmart's backend. I'm not sure, the specifics of it, but that's just how it's treated. And therefore, it's important to group together when you can. So what do I like to say? I say, if you sell multiple different categories, you should have different tiers of campaigns. If you have more of a general theme to your products, right? Let's say you're selling pet accessories. So let's say you have a leash and you have a harness and you have a dog bowl and all these different ideas. You'll have a broad campaign, you could call it whatever you want. And in there you'll have, let's say, pet accessories, dog accessories, cat accessories. You'll have some very generalized keywords that are super high level that apply to all your products. Then you get into, let's say, the leashes and harnesses. Those could have all those together. And then you could have leash specifically for leash and harness specifically for harness. So you could have like that funnel essentially of like broad, medium, and then very specific. So this way you are reducing as much competition as you can. That said, it is sometimes okay to compete with each other, and then they were competing against you're competing against other people, and you could still be profitable. So competing with yourself is not the worst thing ever, because sometimes you want to drive sales towards a specific item. If you have two similar items, you might want to be driving sales towards one of them specifically. And if you put two of them together in a campaign, by nature, Walmart's algorithm will always push for the product that they've seen the most success in. So let's say you have a new product and the old product. The old product has more of that history with Walmart, so it knows where to spend. And it's just going to spend and spend and spend. New product's going to barely be picking up any ad spend. But if you put in its own campaign with its own budget, Walmart will be forced to learn this product and put more behind it. So just some ideas, these are concepts that you could apply to many different things. Again, you could have basic launch. If you want to just go a very simple strategy, you could create an auto campaign. You could throw all your items into auto campaign. I don't really love that idea because it's a little bit harder to manage and view the outcome of it. I suggest maybe one auto campaign per, let's say, category. Again, if you do one per item, you will be competing with yourself. Then for manual, you could have if you just want to keep it simple, you can have more of a broad by category level and then specific by, let's say, similar products. And that should be a decent ad approach. Now, let's talk a little bit on the continuous optimization. So we have three key things over here. Campaign optimization. Now, this is obviously extremely broad, but there's simplicities around this. If you, let's say, have a ROAS goal of 4, right? Return on ad spend, your ROI. For every dollar I spend, I want to make $4 in advance. That's what's profitable for me. Well, I don't really believe in ROAS. That's a separate topic. We'll cover a little bit more on advanced strategies, but let's just say that's your goal. You have a $4 ROAS. So if you're taking a look at your auto campaign, you see you have 10 items in the campaign. 5 of them have a 5 to 10 ROAS, and 5 of them have a 4 to 1 ROAS. To spend less on those ones with the low ROAS and to spend more on the ones with a high ROAS, and therefore it will continue to grow with time and you will have more profitability and more sales. It's a super simple idea behind that. Same thing applies on a keyword level. If you see keywords that are performing better versus keywords that are performing worse ROAS-wise. Another idea is keyword harvesting. As we mentioned before, sales are not coming from 5 keywords. Sales are coming from hundreds of keywords. So if you need to take a look at your auto campaigns or even your broad manual or phrase campaigns, and you could see, oh, here are additional keywords that I didn't initially target, and you could add them into your manual campaigns to make sure that you're targeting these as well. And those will continue to breed even more keywords from time. And it's important to not look at, oh, this has a 100% conversion rate because it got one impression on one click. That's not smart. Take a look at campaigns that have had 10 plus clicks and they have a 30% conversion rate or a 20% conversion rate or a better conversion rate than what your average conversion rate is. Those are the ones that you really want to go after. One more component here is the bid multipliers. So what's the idea of a bid multiplier? This is something that surprisingly a lot of people ignore, don't really know what it is, or they just kind of like put in nonsense information over there. On our initial slide here, we spoke about platform and placements, and this is where the bid multipliers exist. So Walmart will actually show you the data on a campaign level of how your items are performing or how your campaign is performing on desktop versus mobile versus app. And if you see that your desktop, you know, I give always the example that if you're selling a more expensive product, you know, let's say you're selling furniture, you know, $100, $200 bed, whatever it is, $500 bed. I know for me personally, like for such a big decision, I don't know, maybe it's like an older generation thing. I like to be sitting down on my computer. I'm not going to just buy something expensive on my phone. I don't know, you know, it depends on how severe it is. So like, I just, you know, you have more of that focus. So it could be randomly that you might notice that your desktop sales are significantly better because like you have more of that, you know, concentration. And you might notice that your mobile and app sales are less. Now, you can't go ahead and make a campaign just for desktop. That doesn't work. But what you could do is you could say for my desktop, let's increase my multiplier. I'm going to give a multiplier of 50, and therefore your bid will be 50% higher specifically for the desktop placements. Just helps with conversions. You cannot do a negative, so you just would have to set a lower base bid with a higher multiplier. I don't recommend having a very low base bid with super high multipliers, even though multipliers could be, I think, up to 600%. Not recommended. You want to, it just doesn't work super well with the Walmart algorithm. It's more recommended to have instead of doing multipliers across all three placements, have a higher base bid and keep a lower multiplier. Okay, and then there's also the placements as well, not just the platform. So you have, like we mentioned, search and grid, carousel, all these different placements that exist for where your ads display. And some of the time, you know, different placements will perform better. And that makes sense. Similarly, over there, you have the ability to have multipliers over there. Again, Walmart will blatantly show you this information in Connect, and you can make those adjustments from there. Okay, so these are just, again, some more simple strategies that exist. All right, let's talk a little bit about, you know, the choosing the right keywords. So I discussed already a couple of these components, but I just want to kind of go over them. So obviously, you know, so I'm going to shameless plug over here. We have insights into keyword data. A big part of what we do surrounds around keyword. This is about a lot of stuff that I work on. Walmart does have search trends report, which is a report that they provide to us every day. It's a rolling 30-day average of the top 300,000 keywords. Not just that, it gives you the top 3 items and their conversion share. It tells you this brand has a 3% conversion share for this product has a 3% conversion share for this keyword, which you mean, and that's sales. Like that's crazy that, you know, they're giving you so much insightful information, and we could track that over time. We've been receiving this report for, you know, over a year, and we can see which keywords have gone up over time, which keywords have gone down, what the trends are like, which keyword came from nothing, all of a sudden it's a top 10,000 keyword because TikTok brought it up, whatever it is. These things all exist. So it's important to just be always in tune. Doing keyword research one time is not a move. You have to constantly be doing keyword research to really go the furthest. I did mention, you know, new insights are now available in Walmart 3P. Very key place to live, especially, you know, if you're a 1P supplier. It's important, you know, that you have your products on your 3P side. You're just able to learn what's going on with your products. If you're a 3P seller, you know, use the data that Walmart's giving you. Walmart's giving you, don't sit here back and just not take that. On the analytics side of your seller center, you have 3 different data points. You have sales rank, which is something we could talk about, but you have also the item level data. So you can just put in your item ID in your catalog, and it will show you your top keywords that your item is performing for. It will show you what your current impression share is, your click share, and your at the cart share. Why is that so important? Because you'll know if you have a low impression share but a high at the cart and click share, you'll know that this is clearly a product that when it gets seen, it gets clicked and purchased, so you want to spend more on advertising there. Conversely, if you have an item that has a high impression share and low click and add to cart share, probably spend less over there because you're clearly not doing as well as you'd like to be. Walmart will also tell you over there what the top selling product is, and if you search on the keyword side, it will give you similar keywords, as well as the top, 5 products per keyword based on clicks. Again, super insightful data that most brands are not leveraging. Lastly, over here, this is a little bit more of a complex concept, but let's talk about search volume and relevance. So Walmart's done something around this on this analytics page where they do kind of not just show you the most high volume keyword, they give you a rating 1 through whatever, like 1,000 keywords, and they'll tell you like keyword 1 might not always be the largest keyword in terms of search volume. It might be the more relevant plus search volume. So let's talk about what do these things mean. And this is the idea below here, mat versus yoga mat. So let's consider you're selling a purple yoga mat. If I want to find out the top keywords for my product, then I say, hey, what's the best keyword? And I think the highest search volume, mat, gets 50,000 searches a month. But if we think about it, if you search for the keyword mat on Walmart, you're not seeing a yoga mat. You're going to see doormats and car mats and floor mats, whatever's going on there, not a yoga mat. You might see 1 or 2 yoga mats on the first page at best, but it's not going to be prevalent over there. What's the problem with that? It's worthless to look at that because you're not gonna be winning anything over there. You could go after that keyword. What's the point? No one's searching for a yoga mat by searching in mat. They're going to be searching the keyword yoga mat. So if you go to the next keyword yoga mat here, although the monthly searches are only 20,000, it's super relevant. It's exactly what your product is. But then you can go a step further. What if I just go for purple yoga mat? But the problem is the searches are only about 1,000 a month, so it's significantly less. So it's not worth it. You have to find that perfect balance of what is a relevant keyword and the high volume keyword. And combined, you're able to really do something with that. We do a lot of work with this. We built a custom metric called RSV, a relevancy search volume, which basically is a combination of relevancy plus the search volume. And this helps us really understand what are the best keywords to go after, the most impactful keywords, and how do we, tracking rank against that, which is what we'll discuss here in this next slide. So, advanced advertising strategies. Let's dive into here. I mean, I'll give a second here if anyone has. I know we've talked about a number of different things over here. If any questions over here, I'll just give a second over here if anyone to drop them in the Q&A. If not, we'll proceed here with some advanced advertising strategies. Even though some of the things we covered, I think, have been already a little bit advanced.
Yeah, questions and comments, bring them through if you have them. It's always a lot. It's like such a great. Is there access to the presentation post-event here?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
We'll just share it across the PDF. I mean, I'm very impressed. We have all 55 of our participants over here, really are with it so far. No questions. Let's
So
go.
does anyone have any questions about like the 3P and kind of some of the data that you can get? Because I think that's super interesting. And I know before, being at SellCord that I wasn't aware of. Anybody have any questions? David, do you have any more kind of insight on that you want to talk about?
Yeah, sure. So again, I think it's really something that people are not leveraging properly. And Walmart has put out this data. It's been there for a while. And if you want to really know how your products are performing, this is going to be a great place to look at it, because you have information on your ad side. Hey, here's my keyword, my item keyword performance, and I could see, okay, I have a very strong ROAS, I have good sales, but it just gives you your item data. It doesn't tell you overall, how well your products are doing against other competitors. But when you look at this data, it will tell you your impression share. You can see, hey, I'm winning 5% of impressions for this keyword. So you know how well your product is doing for that keyword. That's super important information. That's telling you 5% of the time you are showing up. And then you can see your click share is even greater, and your conversion share even higher. You have 100% conversion share when somebody clicks on your product. Like, that just gives you so much insight into where you need to be spending and where you should not be spending. That's always something to really consider. Where do you need to take a step back because you're doing so well? And that's a bit of what we'll talk about right now with this idea of incrementality. Okay, I see here a question from Michelle. Our brand has a few categories: pro barber, pro hairstylist, consumer men's hair grooming, and consumer beauty hair tools. We recommend having a professional beauty and consumer beauty in different categories in the same campaign. Generally speaking, the main difference is the specs of the appliance and price point. So, Michelle, you actually bring up an interesting idea here, which is price point, which I did not cover with the campaign setup. I like to differentiate campaigns if there's a very large price point differential. Why? Because your bid should be so much higher for a more expensive product. If you have a $50 product or a $100 product, you have so much of a difference and just pure, let's say if you're thinking ROAS purely, you have such a difference in margin that you could go after because the price point is so much higher. So if you have, let's say, a dollar bid for 50, for a $50 product, or a dollar bid for a $100 product, for every sale, you're going to have essentially, 100 to 1 versus 50 to 1. That's twice as much, conversion per, or twice as much ROAS per sale. So you'd want to at least have double, ideas behind that. Obviously, maybe the margin percentage is lesser or whatever the specifics are, but you want to keep them separated. Also, like we mentioned before, Walmart is going to go for the product that will convert the best. So you have to consider also Walmart's algorithm. If you're going after the same keyword, part of the algorithm is thinking about your price point. And this is something we're going to speak about right now with relevancy. But price point is a part that we think about. We had a customer that was selling tea bags, and they started off by selling a 3-pack of tea bags for $20. Right? It wasn't a bad price per unit, but you're selling in the category tea. So somebody's searching tea bag, you're selling a $20 product. Now, for Walmart, if you search tea bag, the top products are going to be like $2 to $5. So when you're coming in there at a product that's 4 times as high as the highest product on the first page, Walmart's like, you're crazy. You're just trying to rip people off, even though per unit it's cheaper. So what we did there is we actually changed the parent to being the single box, which was only like $7, which is still more expensive than the $5, but it was so much easier. We gained so much more traction, and then that drove sale to the $20 product. So you have to really consider that Walmart is not even going to spend on some of these more expensive products because it's just so absurd, the price point. I'm not saying that that's the case here at all, but what I am saying is that Walmart does consider the price into the bid. So if you have a $50 product and a $100 product and both are at a $1 bid in the same campaign, Walmart's not even going to show the $100 product because the $50 product is the one that they're going to be pushing so much more because okay, let's talk about a concept here. I always like to say, like, you have to understand the goals of every person involved. As an agency, I need to think about, my goals, I need to think about my client goals, and I always have to think about the customer and Walmart's goals. You can never just forget what Walmart wants. Now, as most of us, Walmart wants money, right? Like Walmart wants to be the most profitable for themselves, which is going to require, that you're going to spend, you're going to continue spending, and it's going to work. So Walmart, if they're going to push the $50 product, they know that the customer, the shopper, is more likely to purchase that, and it's going to make more sales, and you're going to continue to spend on it and grow it. If they push a $100 product, someone's probably not going to click on it, so they don't make money. Someone's probably not going to buy it, they don't make money again. So you just have to consider that, what does Walmart want in this equation over here? So that's why it'd be worthwhile to break them out. I know it's a little bit of the whole idea of like splitting up and keeping campaigns together. It's more of like a true optimization thing that can happen in the long run. I would say like it's the competition amongst your products is not something crazy. It's not going to kill you at all. And it's worthwhile just for your own sake, it's worthwhile to break things out because you're going to need to do it anyways on an item level for specific keywords. The specific keywords should be in their own campaigns with items. So if you have to work on like some of your broader campaigns, let's say it's around, like hairstylist products, hairstyling products, which could be more broad across 5 different products, that's like, you should worry about that a little bit later on in things. Like it's okay to start first by having specific keywords per product or grouping everything together and putting all the keywords together over there. Like you could try different things. What I believe in, like when you launch, it's worthwhile to get out there with your main keywords. That should be where your real focus is, and some of your supplementary keywords you could figure out across some other campaigns. Now you might listen back and say, David, you're completely contradicting yourself. Well, I'll say this: there's no right answer to these things. There with a lot of these cases, and this is e-commerce as a whole. There's not necessarily right answer. People ask me, what's the proper variation strategy? There is no correct variation strategy. It depends on the product. It depends on the category. And similarly with ads, there's not a correct strategy. There are general ideas and concepts that you can lean towards, but in the end of the day, your product will have its own unique experience with Walmart, and you need to shape what works well for your product in your category. That's the truth. That's the truth of the matter. So it's just about taking these concepts and understanding, what is this idea of competition? How much does it impact me? look at your competitors. Is this a super saturated space? Is this a space where a lot of other people are competing in? Okay, then maybe I want to have more products in the same campaign, so I can just go ahead and against it, or I can go really aggressively, split everything out, so I'm winning top of search for all 4 of my products. Whatever it is, there's different approaches to it. I think this is a nice time to touch on what Tiffany was mentioning early on, in Walmart being more profitable, because I mentioned here competition. Walmart is definitely growing substantially with time. I mean, it's forget the store business for a moment. Obviously, that's their bread and butter. It's obviously been king for 20 years, but or longer at this point. I'm not even sure. I've only been around 20 something years. But if you just take a look at e-commerce, Amazon is obviously like very much the dominant player in the game, and it's very saturated, extremely saturated. And that's why CPCs, your bids are going to be significantly higher on Amazon than that on Walmart. So many of our products to this day, are still winning their bids at the base CPCs, right? Which is, for manual campaigns, is 30 cents, and for auto campaigns, is 20 cents. And that's a crazy concept, that you could still be winning at such a low bid. And that's what really is what makes Walmart for some a more profitable channel, because you're able to win your bids when it's cheaper. But having been working in this space for a number of years, we could see that the CPCs are creeping up. Products are getting more competitive. There's a lot more sellers in every category now. We just see this happening. There's more shoppers. There's more hype around the marketplace. So with all that does come a bit more of a higher cost, but even to this day, it's still cheaper overall for CPC than it is on Amazon. So there's something just to consider when it comes to, if you're an Amazon seller looking to expand into Walmart, or if you're a 1P supplier, you're looking to do a little bit more with your ad spend, and you see Amazon's working for you, but you want to do another marketplace, you might even find some cheaper options and cheaper sales that you could be making on Walmart. Alrighty. Michelle, I hope that answered your question. A little bit of a long-winded one, but let's proceed over here with these ideas here. We have another 4 or 5 slides over here. Some of them are some screenshots, but conceptually, this I would say is going to be the key. This is the this is probably my favorite slide. It's very not many words, but this is a key to true long-term success on the platform. To have an approach where you're purely looking at your ad performance, it might make you money, it might make you profitable, but it's not the best approach to a long-term strategy on Walmart. Why? Because you need to consider your items rank. This is, I believe, is the trifecta of performance on Walmart. I think it comes down to sales, ad profitability, and keyword rank. That's your trifecta of what you're trying to achieve. So what is item rank? How does it work? And all these ideas. So we discussed here, item keyword rank. What is your keyword ranking? So we discussed the idea of doing keyword research. I think the best way to do this is, if you have a list of products, take your top products and make sure you understand what are your top 3 to 5 keywords. Simply as that. Even 1 keyword per product is enough. But keeping it like, these are the keywords that I'm going to go after. Yes, sales come from hundreds of keywords, but the long-term growth in the platform is going to come from a few keywords. So if you understand what your top 1 to 5 keywords are, track those keywords for that product and track your growth over time. You'll notice that your spending against those keywords will be what's driving those keywords to rank more and more. Why does this matter? So for that, we have to understand a little bit of the algorithm of how Walmart's bidding works. When you take a searching grid, right? You take the assumption somebody searches a keyword water bottle. You'll see 4 placements on the top. You'll see some organic placements throughout the page. You'll see 10 total ad placements. What determines who goes in slot number 1, 2, 3 to 10, right? Who determines that? You might think incorrectly that slot number 1 is paying the most, slot number 2 is paying second to the most, and so on and so forth. That isn't the case. Now, that would be the basic assumption, but what's happening is actually Walmart, on their algorithm, they take the bid and they multiply it by what's called this elusive relevancy score. You will never find this relevancy score. It's very much an algorithmic concept, and the idea behind this is how relevant is your product towards this keyword. So obviously, the reasonings behind this is, if I'm trying to sell a pillow, under the keyword water bottle, it's going to have the 0 relevancy, so it doesn't even impact anything. You can't even advertise that product over there. There's the categorization components, another story, but let's say I'm selling, this Poland Spring water bottle over here. I'm trying to sell it under water bottle. Walmart's going to say, how similar is the product that you're trying to sell to the top products that are organically ranked for this keyword? Okay, let me reiterate that. How similar is this Poland Springs water bottle to the top 4 products that organically rank when I search for water bottle? Now, when I search for water bottle, I might see, Arrowhead or Poland Springs or, great value water bottles. I might see, a flask. I might see, like a classic Stanley cup. You might see an Owala. You might see all these other brands, that will display there at the top that are common, common brands that people are familiar with. That might be displaying what's going to show under water bottle. So when I'm trying to sell my item, Walmart's comparing to those products. What is it comparing? How does it compare? Is it looking at the pictures side by side? Obviously not. I mean, there is obviously a component to the imagery. That's a separate point, but it's more about the number of images. If your product has 1 image and the average is 5, they're going to want you just have like 5 images for it. But they look at keywords. That's an obvious one. The keywords throughout the listings. Let's say the top 4 products all have the keyword water bottle and hydro flask and I don't know, whatever, any of these other tumbler and this and that throughout the copy, and your product doesn't, they're going to say you're not as relevant. So that's a big one. How much are these similar keywords that are involved throughout the copy? Very importantly, the number 1 is actually the product type, which is one of the categorizations on Walmart. Is your product type similar or the same as the top 4 products on Walmart, or even whatever the top? It's really 1 through whatever, 200 or something like that. But obviously the first organically ranked one is the most important. So does your product have the same product type as the number 1 organic product for this keyword? So that's something to consider. There's a category path, which is another version, the taxonomy of the listing. So many of these attributes that are filled in, so many of these factors impact that. So your product, that's just on an item setup, PDP excellence. We did a whole session on this previously with BWG. You can find some more details about that. But just to understand is your product should be similar to those at the top there. But why am I bringing this up? Because if you're focusing on keyword rank and you get your product to grow over time, what you're doing is you're becoming more relevant towards these keywords. Because if you're the number 1 organically ranked product and you're going to run a bid at 50 cents and the number 300 guy is running a bid at 50 cents, obviously number 1 is going to win. But if that guy at number 300 is bidding $100.50, even though it's 3 times as much, the number 1 guy might still be winning because it's so much more relevant, and it'll still win that first position. So it's just something you really have to consider, is that it's a relevancy multiplied by the bid. So you need to be relevant. In order to be relevant, you need to grow your organic rank. So now we're going to get into how do you grow your organic rank. We'll get there in a second. But that's just why it's so important to really be focusing on your rank, because this is why I mentioned earlier this concept that ROAS is not a great thing to go by. It's not a terrible thing. Like, I understand it, but I think ROAS is this concept that they swear by without really understanding what the point is. If you have this concept in mind, you understand that with time, your ROAS will improve. Your CPC, your bid will actually go down because your product is more relevant, right? If you think of a multiplier, right? 10 times 10, versus 5 times 50, like the numbers could change on the both sides of the X, but the equal is always going to, it's going to vary. So if you have a lesser bid but a higher relevancy, or versus a higher bid and a lesser relevancy, it could equal the same value over there. So there's just something to understand, that the more you grow, the more your relevancy increases over time, your CPCs will be able to decrease and your ROAS will therefore go up because you're spending less, you're getting a better placement, you're just doing better overall. So that's just something to consider. So if you have purely a $4 ROAS that you are trying to go after, it's not necessarily the best strategy, because you're going to start off, you'll see you have a $2 ROAS, you say, screw this, I'm out. And then you never actually invested in it, and you never actually got to that point where you did see that success. Okay, so let's look into how do you grow, your organic rank. How do you achieve this? So something to understand is, how does rank work? So we discussed how sponsored rank work, but how about organic rank? What determines what's going to be number 1 organically versus number 50 organically? So obviously history is super big with Walmart. the history of the product, and sustained products that have been in store for years and they have an online presence and they've just been killing in sales for so long. Those guys are dinosaurs, and they're going to have an unfair advantage, so to speak. But there's reasons why how you could beat those guys as well. But those are typically going to be the ones that are really going to dominate. So how do you grow? How are you going to be able to beat that? By focusing on these things here. What is the main driver? Rank, conversion rate. There's 3 conversion rates. There's the impression to click, also known as the CTR. There's a click to the add to cart, and then there's add to cart to purchase. Each one of these matters. So if you focus on having a high quality listing, and if you focus on really getting your impressions out there and really checking your clicks and making sure that you're going after premium, like you have premium keywords, you have great content in your listing, you have great retails, you're able to really grow, that's where it's going to come from. So making sure that you are dominating on your conversion rate. That's why conversion rate is so impactful on Walmart. Okay, I see we're already have like 10 minutes left over here, and I've been ranting about this guy for a while. But this is this idea about incrementality. The concept of incrementality is about having long-term, sustainable, organic traffic, and that's going to come from growing your organic rank, understanding that in the long run. It'll increase your organic sales, it'll increase your organic rank, and that's really the long-term plan here. The next few slides are just like some screenshots over here of our software, which this is the concept of SLV tracking, which is not really covered. I didn't cover it too much, but it's about your share of voice as a whole. Just something to consider. A lot of brands have some ideas about this. This is some of the data that we cover to help with that. And here's just a concept of keyword tracking. Here you can see an item, the search terms, and on the right side, you can see both the organic and sponsored placement over here over time. So you can see daily over there. You can see it's obviously the latest date over here on the left. This was a screenshot was taken obviously last week. But you can just see here, what the most recent keyword rank is for this. And you can see it increasing or decreasing in time based on some other things.
And this is Dashna. This is our proprietary software at SellCord. So it's Dashna by SellCord. There's a lot of different information that we have in here. And as you can see, like on share of voice, which I think is really cool, you can kind of see what's going on with your competitors and from a competitive landscape. And so our team is really going in and really, understanding this information and then translating it to our clients of, this is what we would recommend that you do to continue to gain in, share and win at Walmart.
Definitely. Thank you, Lane, for that. Yeah, definitely. I mean, we have a lot of data across many, 100,000 keywords that we scrape over here, getting SLV data just to show, how your brand has grown over time to really dominate certain keywords, certain areas, and then even just on an item keyword level, we can really see the performance.
And we're scraping this data daily, so we're constantly getting new information, which is fantastic.
There's so much data that exists, and it's really like with the correct approach, that's really going to be the best way to truly succeed in the long run here. I see a question here in the chat from Anonymous. Can you increase organic rank by sending, qualified referral traffic to your Walmart PDPs, like through social media? 100%. Walmart really actually loves, traffic from offsite. Google ads to Walmart is actually really great. Those have very strong impacts on your items and on your item doing well. Now, just something to consider though is not keyword specific, right? You're just driving traffic to an item, to a specific PDP, which definitely does help, the PDP's overall strength, and that Walmart does consider that a strong product if there's offsite traffic, but it's not keyword specific. This goes into like the relevancy of the item as a whole, not necessarily of the relevancy of the item to that keyword. So it does help, but it doesn't necessarily help on a specific keyword, if that makes sense. Yeah, definitely. I mean, if there are more questions, please definitely drop them in the chat here. This covers the majority of the high level things. Yeah, so for sure. So for Dashna, yeah, we could please reach out directly. We do have some demoing capabilities where you're able to just to try out our SLV, our rank tracking, things of that nature. Yeah, we'd love to chat. You could visit us at just dashna.com, or you could go to sellcord.com and you could reach out through either one of those sources. Say, hey, we saw this on DWG Connect, and we'll take it from there. You can also email either of us directly, either Lane at sellcord.com or David at sellcord.com. We'll be there.
And we'll be doing follow-up post events and connecting everybody. So if you do want a demo of Dashna, beautiful opportunity to make that connection and follow up. So very
And I'll
cool.
be, yes, and I'll be sending out the deck that we presented today and just greatly appreciate everyone's time. We certainly love questions and, would love to connect outside of this.
I mean, it's always like so much to take in, but you guys always condense it so well and make like all the crazy come together and make sense. So we definitely appreciate you. Any final thoughts, David and Lane, before we wrap?
Yeah, I think I got to work on that a little bit. I always realize I'm like, I have like my notification like 10 minutes before each call. I'm like, what? It's already 12:50 over here. Like the time really flies, and I realize I've just been yabbering away over here. So I'll have to work on that. But it's just there's so I get so excited about these concepts. This is the stuff that like really drives the day to day, and with the proper execution of this is really where you see the success. It's so easy for I know we work with so many brands who have come from experiences where they get great results from a ROAS perspective from other places, and then they realize, hey, I've just been cannibalizing my organic sales this whole time. We've had brands that have stopped ads entirely, and then they realize that their sales barely dropped, and that indicates that you've been killing yourself. You've been all that money you've been spending, you did not have to spend a cent of it because you would have been making that regardless. And with the proper approach to it, that's where you're really going to see the best results in the long run. Even if your ROAS, this fake idea which people live by, might be lower, your overall, again for the sake of it one more time, incrementality will be better over time.
Awesome point. Lane?
Yeah, I was just going to say, uh, Walmart just continues to change. Their algorithm is changing on a daily basis. And, we have a team of experts that are making sure that we're understanding what impact those changes are going to make and how we can help our clients win even more. And so it's just a super exciting time. And there's a lot of, things that we can do, levers that we can pull and strategies we can put in place. And, just excited to be a part of Walmart and working with them.
Awesome. Well, thank you both for the
Thank you.
intel, the expertise, as always. Awesome content. Like David said, I mean, there's so much data, there's so many resources now, and it's like it becomes overwhelming as a brand, and you just kind of shut down. You're like, I don't even know where to start. Make it
Yeah.
make sense. So definitely encourage a follow-up conversation with the SellCord team. Getting the demo on the dashboard board looks amazing. Oh my gosh, I was dreaming about that. I'm like, if I had that back in the day, what could I have done with it? So thank you both. We appreciate you and we appreciate everybody who attended. Thank you for attending and hope to see you on another event soon. Take care, y'all.
Thanks so
Happy
much, Tiffany.
Thursday.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.